So we start Excel by having a look at an overview of the software. And as you notice here, I have opened Excel in a Mac environment. I'm going to show you just a couple of things regarding your profile, and then we're going to switch to a Windows environment, and we're going to stay there for the duration of the course. I understand that some of you will have Macs and others will have Windows, and some of you may have tablets as well. But I will stick with Windows simply because this is the software as you will see it in the computer labs at the university and the business school. And as you are most likely to use these labs for your work, you need to be used to a Windows environment. There are differences with the way Excel and in general Office works on a Mac and on the various tablets, whether they are iOS or Android tablets, but by and large, the functioning pretty much is the same. So within a Mac environment, when you double click on the Excel icon, you should get this opening window. This is to open files which we have just opened, or to actually start with a new file with a new template. So here on the left-hand side, you see Home, New, Recent Files, Shared Files, or you simply open a file from wherever it is. It might be from a USB memory stick, or it can be from somewhere else from your hard disk. So before I open a new blank workbook, I will simply take a couple of moments to go to your profile. So on the top left corner, you will see my picture, and this means that I'm logged in. It is quite likely that you're not logged into any account, so right now you don't have anything other than a blank icon. So it's worthwhile clicking on that, tapping on that, and you will see these are my so-called connected services. So I'm connected to my OneDrive at City, and this is the one you really need to be connected to. I also have a private, a personal Outlook account, so I'm connected to that as well. And because I share documents with some of my colleagues, they either share their documents with me or vice versa. I also have access to these various shared drivers, which are kept into what Microsoft calls SharePoint. You can, of course, sign out, or in your case, if you're not connected to any services, you need to click on this cross here. This will bring up a window. OneDrive is the Outlook.com account that Microsoft has. So if you have one of these accounts and you want to be connected to it, go ahead here and connect. Or what you should be doing is clicking on OneDrive for Business. And at this point, you will need to do is to type in your full email address at City, and then the system will take you to the single sign-on page at City University, where you will also have to put in your IT password. And after that, you're going to be connected to your account, and you can open and save documents straight into your OneDrive space. I repeat, you have about 1 terabyte worth of space, so it is definitely worth using that throughout your studies, sharing documents, saving all your university work, and so on and so forth. I'm going to close this now, and I'm going to simply double click on blank workbook, and then I'm going to make this window as large as the screen so you're able to see what I'm doing. So this is the environment. The interesting thing about a Mac is that it works with a combination of menu items. So right at the very top on the menu bar, as it's called, you see next to the Apple symbol, you have an Excel menu, and under Excel you have a number of things, but the two most important ones are Preferences and Quit. You can also sign out from here as well, but I wouldn't recommend that. I'll come to Preferences in a minute. Then you have File, from where you can open a new file or close an existing file or save it with a different name and so forth. Various commands under the Edit function, and several others: View, Insert, Format, Tools, and also things data handling. So these are things that we're going to cover later on in this series of tutorials, Windows, and finally Help. But it also works with a number of tabs. So as you see at the top of the window, of the Excel window, there are a number of tabs. This area is known as the ribbon. and it is quite common in all Office software. So you have a ribbon for Word, you have a ribbon for PowerPoint, you even have a ribbon for Access, the database program, if you use that. So you will see that each part of the ribbon or each tab in the ribbon has a number of shortcuts. So the most commonly used shortcuts are in what we call the home ribbon, which is the one highlighted here. So you can paste in a number of ways. You can cut, you can copy, you can change the font, you can change the weight of the font, whether it is bold, italicized, or underlined. You can change the fill color of a cell or an entire range. You can change the color. You can change alignment and so on and so forth. We're going to cover some of these things a bit later on. And then there is the Insert tab from where you can insert, for example, a table, charts, text boxes, pictures, shapes, and so forth. There is a Draw tab. As you will see, you can draw with a pen, especially if you have an E-pen. A number of shortcuts to change the way that a page actually looks on screen and is printed on paper. You have a tab dedicated to formulas or functions, of which we're going to do plenty. A tab which has to do with data manipulation. A tab which allows other readers of your work to review and add comments and correct things. A View tab, which has to do with things like how you would like to see your work, whether it looks like a spreadsheet or whether it looks like an empty page. There is something called the Developer tab, and the Developer tab will come useful towards the very end when we start looking at macros and VBA. So this is a very quick overview of the tab. There is also something at the very top which is called the quick access bar. So it's that green area, the green bar at the very top of the window. And you see there are already a few shortcuts there. There is something called the autosave. I will explain this to you a bit later. A home button, a save button, and a save as button, an undo, a redo or repeat. And there's another button which allows you to customize the quick access toolbar. And the very final word in this Mac environment, if you want to change the commands which are available to you, either on the quick access toolbar or on the ribbon, simply click Excel and then click on Preferences. The shortcut for that, which is common for preferences in any Mac programs, is the Command button and a comma. So I click on Preferences, and in the pop-up window, you click on Ribbon and Toolbar. And this allows you to customize the toolbar, what actual ribbon tabs are available to you and which commands are available within each tab. So you can customize existing tabs, but you can also create new tabs on the ribbon that serve a particular purpose, a particular collection of commands which you most frequently use. And that's it when it comes to the Mac environment for Excel. So we now move to a Windows desktop. As you will recognize, this is Windows 10. To start, you need to click on the Excel button, which I'm doing right now. And you're going to get something similar, but not quite identical to what you saw for the Mac environment. So as my Excel is starting up, you see it starts in a window. I have it maximized, but if you want, you can look at it like that. So here's a window which collects the same kind of information. So on the left-hand side, you will see previous files, recent files that I have opened, and some older files. You have the option right at the bottom to open other workbooks, or you can simply start with a blank workbook, which is going to do right now. Before that, at the top right this time, you will see that I'm logged in with my City account. From this point, you can switch your account. If you click on that, you will see that my current account is my City one. You can add an account, and there you have to type in your email address and so forth. The accounts you can ask are primarily primarily OneDrive accounts. So if right now you're not signed into anything at all, which is what typically happens when you start Excel for the first time, this is how you sign in onto your City account. And then you click on Next after typing in your full city.ac.uk email address. This will take you to the City University single sign-on portal, and there you simply have to put your IT password. So I'm closing this window now as I'm not going to use it, and I double click, or I click rather, on blank workbook. And just to make sure that the focus is on the Excel window, I'm going to maximize that. So you see a similar layout to that for the Mac environment, but the interesting difference is that there is no menu bar. So in a Windows environment, everything is contained in tabs. Tabs also are more visible. So if you go right to the top, you will see that each tab is highlighted rather than with an underline. It is highlighted as an actual tab. So this is Home, familiar with it already, Insert, Page Layout, and so forth. The vast majority of commands is identical, but there are a few additional commands which you're not going to find in the Mac version. And this simply because perhaps just a couple of commands where the Windows version has an advantage over the Mac version simply because Microsoft needs to encourage its clients to buy Windows rather than work in a Mac environment. If you go to the File tab, the File tab brings you back here where you can choose previous files to open. You can, as you will see all the services, so-called, you're connected to. So I'm connected to my OneDrive at City, which is a OneDrive for business, effectively. My personal OneDrive, which is on Outlook. The sites, which is the SharePoint that Microsoft operates. Any other web locations, any files you may save locally on your PC, on the C drive or the D drive, or perhaps on a USB stick, or you can simply browse. Okay, so this will bring up the file manager. There are also other important commands. You can start new files from a template here. You can save a file or save it with a different name. You can print, although you can also print from the main spreadsheet. You can share and export and publish. Publish typically means export something to a PDF format, or you can simply close. And again, you will see if you click on that, you will see the account. And interestingly, this is where you're going to see the kind of license you get. So when you download Office from the university server, from office.com, which I covered in the previous installment of these tutorials, I talked to you about Office 365 at City. So when you download Office from there, you will see that you will have something similar, or Office, perhaps Office 365 will be your license. So I'm going back to my spreadsheet by clicking on that arrow here pointing to the left. So this brings me back to my main spreadsheet. And once again, what you will see here right at the very, very top in the green area is the quick access toolbar, which you can customize in the same way. So if you click down, all of these commands can be put onto the very top if you really want very quick access to things like save, save as, printing, and so forth. You can also have more commands, which you can add there. So if I click on that, you'll see you get this interface, this pop-up window, which allows you, gives you access to pretty much all the commands out there. These are just the most popular. If you click here on the drop-down, you can look at all the commands, and the list is actually quite lengthy. So I'm going to close that window now. So this is back to the toolbar. I go to my home ribbon. If you go anywhere where there aren't any buttons, it's just a bit of empty space, then right click, and as you will see, a pop-up window comes up, which allows you to customize the ribbon. So you can customize the quick access toolbar. You can put the quick access toolbar below the ribbon if you prefer, rather than above. You can customize the ribbon and collapse it. So if you click customize the ribbon, once again, you see that all the commands, indeed the most popular commands, are listed here. And these are the tabs you have on your ribbon. You have a home tab. If you simply follow, you have a home tab. And under the home tab, you have a group of commands called the clipboard, then the font, alignment, number, and so forth. And you will see that these titles tally with what you have here. This is your home ribbon, your home tab on the ribbon, And then it's a group that's called clipboard, one that's called font, alignment, number, styles, cells, and editing. So these are editable. You can add more things there. You can create a new group, you can create a new tab. So you have quite a lot of flexibility in how you want to customize your ribbon, depending, of course, on how big is your screen. Okay, so sometimes you're limited by the real estate. If you have a very small laptop, you simply don't have that much space to display all the commands at the same time. So I'm now closing this, and I will show you one more thing, which might be useful, in fact, if you have a laptop. So you will see here the vertical space you have on a laptop sometimes is not enough. So given that you have all the tabs of the ribbon at the top, and the ribbon itself can be quite thick, and below the ribbon you have this area, which is known as the formula bar. So this is where you type all the various formulas, numbers, functions, and so forth. So if you have all of this, the actual space that you see below is not big enough. Okay, so if you want to make the grid space bigger, you can simply collapse the ribbon. So if you go here, right, so right at the very edge on the right hand side of the ribbon, you see this little arrow pointing up, click on it, and the ribbon goes in, right? If you want to call any of the ribbons, any of the tabs in the ribbon, you see the tabs have remained there at the top. So if I click on home, you see the ribbon pops up on top of my spreadsheet. As a matter of fact, what it does is it hides the formula bar. So you select the command you want to select, and then when you click back onto your spreadsheet, you will see that the ribbon tab disappears. So this is one way of saving yourself some space. If you want to restore the ribbon, so you can see it at all the time, click on one of the tabs, move your mouse all the way to the very right hand side. You now, rather than an arrow, you will see a pin. So pinning the ribbon means that you allow the ribbon to be displayed all the time. So I've pinned it, and now the ribbon is there. You see everything has shifted downwards. And this is a quick overview of Excel, the interface first of all, and how to deal with the ribbons. We will continue in a few seconds with the first few commands and options you have within Excel. So we have seen what the ribbon does. How about the spreadsheet itself? You will see, of course, that Excel, the main working area, is split into columns, which utilize letters, and rows, which have numbers. And every individual cell, for example, the top left cell here, is known by its letter and by its number. And you will see at the top left here, which this area is called the name box, you will see the name of the particular cell. If you want to click, hold down on your mouse and then highlight, you will see now that you have selected a range which consists of 4 rows, 4R, times 3 columns. If you want to select a particular column, all of it, just click on its header. If you want to select a particular row, do the same thing, click on its header. So you have seen how to select a single cell, a range of cells, a single column, and a single row. If you want to select multiple columns and rows, you simply click on the first column you want to select, press and hold Control if you're using Windows, and if you're using a Mac, also press Control, and then click on all the subsequent columns you want to choose. I click away, so I remove my selection. I click a row, press and hold Control on both Windows and Mac, and you can click subsequent rows. And then I click away to deselect my previous selection. Now, to have a look at how many columns and rows there are, I will put my cursor here on A1, and then on Windows, you need to press the End button to find and press the End button, and then press the arrow down. If you have an external full keyboard on a Mac, then you have to find the End key, which is an arrow which points southeast. So it goes from the top left to the bottom right. So press on that and then press the arrow down. Or if you have a reduced keyboard, perhaps you have a Mac laptop, then press the Command key and the arrow down. This will take you to the very bottom of your spreadsheet. And now as you see there, you have 1,048,576 rows. So it is quite a large spreadsheet. If you do the same thing, so press the End key and now press the arrow to the right, it will take you to the top right, to the bottom right most cell in Excel. So you have about 1,000,000 rows and it goes up to column XFD. So this is the very end of your spreadsheet. Again, if you press End, arrow up, you go on the very first row, and then if I press again End and arrow left, I go back to my original cell A1. Now, this is just one spreadsheet. If you look at the bottom, you'll see that we find ourselves in sheet 1. As we're going to see later, you can have several more sheets. We're going to add a few more ourselves. You can add new sheets, you can copy them, you can delete them, you can rename them. There's lots of things you can do. And indeed, there's lots of things you can do with cells and also the content, the input that you put in each individual cell. For now, I hope you have a very good overview of what you can do with Excel in terms of moving around in the space that you have. There is one more short element. At the bottom right of your spreadsheet, you will see here that there is a plus and minus sliding button, and this allows you to zoom in and out of your spreadsheet, right? So if, for example, you have relatively small fonts and you cannot see very well what you're typing, you can simply increase the zoom. As you will see on my screen, you can see fewer and fewer columns and fewer rows as well. So I have increased now to 140%. You can go back to 100%, or indeed, if you want to see a lot more content, if you have a very large spreadsheet, you can just reduce this to about 70%, as I have here. So back to 100%. There are also two different views. The normal way of looking at the spreadsheet is like a grid, as you see here. So down here, this is the normal view or the grid view. You are able to look at it as it will appear when it is printed. So if I click on that, you will see the entire thing has now changed into pages. You can still see the grid view, but it almost looks formatted, ready for printing. And finally, there is this view, which looks at the printout. This is when you have actually decided exactly on which print area you're going to use. Right now, I haven't selected anything, so all you see is an empty spreadsheet. So this is a different view, which is the page break preview. Because my spreadsheet doesn't have really any content here, there are not multiple pages, that's why you cannot see anything. Most of the time, I would recommend being in this view. Okay, so you just see the grid.